Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. Miho's focus had faltered just long enough. Oops, I got distracted. The next moment, a blur of movement streaked past her vision. A deafening crash, a surge of cold wind. And there he stood, Park Do-jin, calm and composed. As the salamander he struck collapsed behind him with a hollow thud. His fist still radiated frost, his silver hair catching the dim light like moonlight on steel. The creature hadn't even had the chance to scream. Miho's eyes widened as she took in the sight. Just one strike, one perfectly timed blow had ended the monster. The sheer force of it. And yet the man looked like he'd merely brushed away dust from his sleeve. "Hunter Miho, please be careful," he said softly, his voice neither patronizing nor arrogant, just sincere. She found herself staring at him. He easily took down a salamander with one attack. Hunter Park Do-jin, she had underestimated him. The casual clothes he wore had masked his strength, had fooled her into thinking he was just another reckless youth. But the truth shimmered behind those golden eyes like quiet lightning. Unrelenting, controlled, deadly. Despite his age, this was no novice. This was a force. And in that moment, Miho understood. This raid had more at play than she'd anticipated. And Park Do-jin might just be the eye of that storm. Under a violent onslaught of energy and blinding speed, Park Do-jin's strikes shattered through the clustered demon horde. His blade carved yellow arcs through the air, severing limbs and cleaving torsos before the creatures could react. In the span of moments, the battlefield turned into a storm of red, black, and crumbling flesh. Miho's eyes trailed the slaughter. Her inner voice trembled with awe. I guess S-ranks really are on a whole other level. As the dust settled and the roars of the demons quieted to a haunting stillness, the rest of the hunters regrouped. The mangled bodies of fallen monsters sprawled across the stone, torn, crushed, and broken. "With this, I think everything's wrapped up here," one of the hunters remarked, surveying the devastated battlefield. "This ended sooner than expected," another added, his voice tinged with a faint note of suspicion. Miho, standing still amid the carnage, narrowed her eyes. Her instincts twitched. "But I think Paiyu Field has too few monsters." Lee Min-sung turned toward her, his expression unreadable. "Hunter Miho, you realize that, huh?" He spoke calmly. "We perform routine monster cullings to maintain the dungeons that the Grim Reaper Guild are in charge of. That's why it's of no threat to the outside world." Miho processed his explanation, but doubt crept in. Routine monster cullings? She thought. Guilds usually don't care about that, since there's no need to enter the dungeon every day. Her unease deepened. Something didn't fit. Something's definitely weird in here. Min-sung motioned his hand ahead. "All right, the boss monster room is over here." But beneath the polished smile and polite tone, his inner monologue unraveled coldly. "No matter how hard you try to find it, you'll never find anything that can incriminate me." A dark memory twisted behind his eyes. Images of a ruined facility, shadows dancing across pipes and vents, consumed by red lightning. The demons already dismantled the factory and are already hiding somewhere within Paiyu Field. His voice, though silent on the surface, echoed with cruel satisfaction. "You'll never find traces of the factory or get out of this place." Park Do-jin stood calmly, his silhouette sharpened by the glow of moonlight as the shadows of chaos stirred in the distance. And yet he smiled, with a sane mind. In a world collapsing into madness, that calm grin should have been impossible. A monstrous figure twitched in the dark, a grotesque being with a lashing tongue and rows of jagged teeth curling into a grin of its own. The demon's voice broke the silence like a claw through silk. Its eyes glowed red beneath the hood of its robe as it glanced to its cohorts, twisted, horned figures exuding ancient malice. He muttered, "What a pity. It's such a waste." The demon stood before a gathering of undead soldiers, muscle-bound, lifeless puppets bred for war. They looked toward the hooded commander with expectation and suppressed restlessness. "I can't believe we can't meet the apostle even though he's here," the demon muttered. He continued, "We could be making so much stardust with all this idle time. It's such a waste for the materials to be sitting around." Then, a sound, quiet, deliberate, followed by footsteps. Slow and steady. Suho stepped forward into the half-light of the ruined facility. His gaze was cold, unwavering. Baru, I sensed the presence of a demon here. Baru materialized from the shadows. His voice echoed like a loyal whisper into the silence. That's right, young monarch. He placed his hand against the sealed steel door, then pushed. With a shuddering creak, the entrance groaned open. Inside, the factory lit up in confusion. Red eyes widened. Creatures froze. The leader's voice cracked out, sharp with alarm. Who is it? But it was already too late. Lightning roared through the entrance as the invader struck with impossible speed. The first blow landed with godlike precision, splitting flesh and shadow in a single, fluid arc. The room quaked. The demons reeled, clawing backward, as the force of the blow shattered walls and scattered debris. Their leader's glowing eyes narrowed in fury and dread. One glance at the blurred silhouette in blue was enough to confirm their worst fear. They had been found, and judgment had arrived. A sharp breath escaped from the figure cloaked in darkness as he swung forward, crimson gauntlet crashing through the air. He had struck with such force that the demon's head was sent hurtling away in a clean, decisive arc. The clash hadn't even registered before it was over. From the shadows behind him, Baru's voice echoed with admiration, tinged with reverence. To think, the young monarch could dispatch a demon with a single blow. The fruits of relentless daily quests, even ones as tedious as hunting crocodiles, were clearly bearing fruit now. Surveying the scene from above, Suho studied the twisted figures standing idly below. Their eyes were vacant, devoid of thought, blank as puppets awaiting orders. These people don't have a mind of their own, he thought grimly. Payu Field, without a doubt, it was housing a stardust factory. His gaze narrowed beneath the black mask. This operation was real. A deep voice sliced through the thickening air, its tone laced with amusement and venom. A hulking demon emerged, tendrils writhing with malice and bloodlust. I wasn't expecting the one hindering our apostles' great plan to come here. But this is great. It snarled, its grotesque form swelling with twisted anticipation. This is great, he echoed coolly. You'll become a great gift to the apostle. Across the room, the demon's crimson eyes burned brighter as it lunged, its monstrous mass coiling in hunger for blood. The confrontation between predator and predator was just beginning. Sharp cracks of crystal echoed through the cavern, each strike digging into the endless wall of glittering blue. The cavern pulsed with light as the crystals shattered, scattering mana residue through the stale dungeon air. The man paused, gazing at the magic essence deposits stacked impossibly high around him. A troubled thought surfaced. This dungeon was under a guild's management. How had the crystals been allowed to accumulate to such an overwhelming degree? His voice, hushed and bewildered, cut into the stillness as he speculated aloud. Were these people earning income another way, beyond selling these precious crystals? In the cave, the air buzzed with quiet conversation. Two seasoned hunters leaned against their tools, wiping sweat and sharing rumors. One of them spoke of a supposed E-rank collector who'd entered the dungeon with them. His tone was incredulous, almost mocking. How could they allow someone so weak into a B-rank dungeon? But the other man, kinder and perhaps more experienced, offered a different take. The boy was young, hardworking. It was rare to see such tenacity. A smirk formed as the truth came out. One of them had purposely placed the boy at the entrance, the safest zone, while he himself had to fight at the front lines. You caught on to that, huh? The man chuckled, scratching his beard. A sigh escaped the other. The boy's cart could carry 4 times the usual load. They'd help him when their task here was done. His partner shook his head, smiling faintly. You're way too nice. The tunnel ahead shimmered with the glow of untouched crystals, their raw power waiting silently. Then, a shift in tone, a change in setting. In a cold, stardust factory, red shadows writhed in the dark as Suho stepped through the doors, greeted by the hostile stares of demonic beasts. Their tentacles tensed instinctively. Baru's voice rang out beside him. The creature before them wasn't ordinary. It radiated overwhelming magic power. Suho narrowed his eyes. He could sense it too, his sharpened stats revealing the threat more clearly than ever before. The massive demon in their path pulsed with energy, the same kind they had encountered in Pyramid Field. Baru analyzed it carefully, This one was close to A rank level. And yet, Suho remained calm. He reflected briefly. The Grim Reaper Guild had been tasked with clearing a field-type dungeon. Something had never felt right about that. Was the Hunter Association finally catching on? Had they discovered the truth behind the Stardust, and the reason he joined the collection team in the first place? His grip tightened around the gauntlet. The real fight was only just beginning. If the Hunter Association's attention on Lee Min-sung keeps growing, Suho knows it'll only get harder to extract information about the Iterum Apostle from him. He narrows his gaze, then asks aloud the most pressing question of all. Where is the Apostle now? The monstrous being before him, with crimson eyes glowing like embers, responds with chilling insight. Just as the Apostle is pursuing the one in the black mask, that same individual is also hunting the Apostle in return. Two forces destined to collide. Without warning, a thick tentacle lashes out, twisting around Suho's body with force. You'll see him very soon. The creature hisses, the malice in his voice unmistakable. Because I intend to crush you so thoroughly that you'll be unconscious when I hand you over. The monstrous limbs coil tighter, dragging Suho off his feet. The foe's voice, laced with cruelty, continues to echo. Now that you're in my grasp, you won't be escaping my overwhelming strength. But Suho's expression doesn't waver. Eyes narrowed, he whispers coldly. Overwhelming strength, huh? A flashback pierces through his mind, his sweat-drenched chest heaving with exertion, the room filled with the heavy rhythm of his breathing. Before him, Amit stood, visibly impressed. Impressive, Amit says, arms crossed with pride. I didn't expect you to complete your training in just 5 days. Young monarch, Amit speaks reverently. Your body's definitely gotten stronger. Suho, standing tall, offers a quiet smile. Is that so? A chuckle escapes him, calm, confident. Then, with the training complete, he collapses to the ground, arms spread wide, breathing ragged. It was a good decision, he thinks to himself, to put every stat point from the daily quests into strength, and that wasn't all. His body not only grew tougher, it evolved. I also gained a skill that raises my strength. In the icy silence of the battlefield, the towering figure of Amit makes a vow. His jagged mouth opens in a promise heavy with menace and certainty, a guarantee that echoes with power. Right now, he says, a declaration not just of timing but of dominance. Standing beside him, the others watch with awe as his eyes burn with deadly resolve. Across the field, the enemy twitches. Muscles coil with tension. You're the strongest human I've seen so far. The creature mutters to itself, barely believing what it senses. But it's already too late. In a blink, Suho breaks free. The tentacles binding him burst apart in streaks of glowing blue, cleaved through by sheer force. The shadowy beast's red eyes widen, stunned. What? Suho stands tall in the smoke, the tattered remains of the tentacles curling helplessly around him. Lightning crackles at his feet as his stats flare. Strength, 120. The aura around him shifts, no longer just deadly, but overwhelming. He takes a single step forward, the floor cracking beneath him. Without warning, Suho drops from above in a blinding bolt of destruction. His gauntlets rip through the air, closing in on the stunned creature before it can react. He lands hard. The enemy stumbles, barely keeping its stance as Suho's voice cuts through the haze with ice-cold precision. I'll ask you again, his voice continued. Where's the Iterum Apostle? The monster recoils, but bares its fangs. Like hell I'd tell you that. Its tentacles surge forward in retaliation, but Suho doesn't flinch. Is that so? He murmurs. And then the world explodes. A single swing of Suho's gauntlets, amplified by all his stat gains and the roaring storm within him, tears through the creature's head. The blow is clean, precise, devastating. The tentacles falter. The body buckles. Suho's blade gleams in midair as the dust begins to settle. The monstrous creature staggered back, its limbs reeling as blue arcs of energy traced the air like blades of lightning. Suho, eyes sharpened behind his black mask, carved through the air with relentless precision. With each slash, the earth cracked and the enemy's form trembled under the unrelenting force. What is with this guy? The beast muttered in disbelief, as Suho clutching its head in stunned dread. A creeping sense of familiarity settled over the battlefield. That pressure, that presence, uncannily reminiscent of a nightmare long past. The demon's thoughts swirled in chaos as he realized it. This unnerving vibe, it's just like him. But Suho was done asking. Cold and composed, he raised his hand slightly. Baru, he called, tossing the head of the demon. Descending like a shadow at his command, Baru responded instantly, his voice unwavering. Yes, my lord. The demon stared ahead, resigned and bitter. Oh, Apostle, it's a pity I won't get to see the picture you're painting. But in his final thoughts, his mind clung to one truth. Thanks to your help, we were able to destroy the later household, those loathsome traitors of demonkind. A breath of satisfaction escaped his fading thoughts. I'm satisfied with just that. As Baru ate the demon's head, Essel felt the shift in the air. What's happening? She whispered, startled. My body suddenly feels lighter. Beside her, Baru floated down with a smug glint in his crimson eyes, a sly chuckle escaping him. That octopus is quite chewy. Moments later, Suho turned to him, eyes narrowed with purpose. Baru, were you able to find out anything about the Iterum Apostle? Baru hesitated, then began. About that, his words were careful, thoughtful. He thinks of the Iterum Apostle as a shining light, though I wasn't able to find out many details about him. In Suho's mind, the description painted a scene. A vision of men wreathed in golden glow, halos of brilliance crowning their heads as they stood in stark contrast to the battlefield's chaos. The true enemy remained hidden behind that light. The hallway echoed with Suho's footsteps as he stared into another dead end. His jaw clenched slightly, frustration thinly veiled beneath the sharp grin that stretched across his face. No clues, no leads, just another void of silence in a place meant to hide truths. His thoughts turned to Lee Min-sung, the one overseeing the entire Stardust factory. If answers were to be found, they would be locked within that man's mind. And yet, there was another urgency rising within him. He turned to the cityscape, its brittle quietness deceptive. He would need to start evacuating the people before things spiraled further out of control. Somewhere in the dungeon, Apostle stood still as a chill swept past him. The air shifted. The ominous presence of the demon had vanished. But it wasn't the work of the Hunter Association, that much he was certain of. Something else had interfered. Someone far more dangerous. In Paiyu Field, a grand gate loomed like a beast with its mouth shut, waiting to be opened. The team assembled before it. This was the boss monster room. Tension clung to the air, yet doubts clouded the minds of even the sharpest. Hunter Miho stared ahead, thinking. Despite the journey, no clues had surfaced. Wasn't this supposed to be the place producing Stardust? Min-sung glanced at her surroundings. Looks like she's puzzled to why she found nothing. Min-sung in the shadows made a quiet decision. If things were quiet, if this ended without more friction, they'd abandon the plan to brainwash the hunters. Best not to stir the hornet's nest now. But behind those calm expressions, hidden thoughts brewed. That won't do for me. One of them mused inwardly, a glimmer of ambition flashing in his eye. The woman's gaze lowered as a new thought crept in. Could it be on land instead? Her instincts urged her forward. I'll check again, once the boss monster is taken care of. With resolve rekindled, she turned to her team. A command left her lips, simple and sharp. Let's go in. As the golden glow seeped into the shadows of the chamber, tension thickened between the two figures. Apostle stared quietly, expression unreadable, while Min-sung stepped forward with unsettling confidence. What are you doing? The question came, cautious but edged with suspicion. Without hesitation, he replied coolly, as he injected the stardust in Min-sung's neck. Didn't I tell you already? I'll be turning all the hunters in this party into followers. A faint grin played on his lips. His gaze hardened. Someone we choose to be on our side must have a certain value, he said, his voice low. To work with an A rank like you to kill an S rank like Lim Taegyu was a strange proposal from the start. Leaning in close, a whisper of betrayal followed. I'll have to make use of you to get my hands on Lim Taegyu. But the moment the words touched the air, everything changed. Eyes that once flickered with hesitation now blazed crimson. The tension snapped like a cord pulled too tight. That talk about S rank again. Min-sung's voice rose with fury. Did you think I'd get brainwashed by someone like you? With a roar that shook the room, his fury erupted, red veins streaking across his skin, rage pouring out like fire unchained. And then, everything went still. He's standing tall amidst an ethereal golden light, his stance calm, his presence now something entirely different. Golden armor glinted across his body like molten fire forged into a new god. His golden eyes narrowed with divine clarity. "Move as the Supreme One wishes," echoed the radiant decree from above. He stood beneath it, back arched, arms open, ready not to follow, but to challenge. The heavens may command, but he would decide his own fate. The wind stirred faintly around them, carrying with it the scent of dust and war. The man in black turned his back to the others, steps heavy with finality. But just as the moment seemed to drift into silence, a quiet tap landed on his shoulder, a firm yet wordless call to pause. From behind, the silver-haired figure stood close, not with hostility, but with something quieter, something resolute. Their eyes didn't meet, but the weight of understanding passed between them like a silent accord in battle. In the stillness that followed, Min Sung's glowing red aura finally faded. The tension broke. Then, from behind them all, the apostle's voice rang clear with unwavering command. Now then, his gaze burned forward, unyielding. His voice cut through the smoky air like a brand. "Let's move on to the next one. No rest, no retreat." The hunt wasn't over. And so, they followed. A sleek black vehicle rolled to a halt outside a heavily fortified building, its exterior veined with strange organic markings, an ominous signal of unnatural influence within. Inside, the air shimmered with arcane light as a luminous blue flame hovered above a hand, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. The figure holding it spoke with quiet gravity. If this summon vanished, it would signal disaster for the team inside. The man in the tailored white suit, with crimson hair and tinted glasses, studied the wisp of summoned energy with calculating eyes. "The summon of a summon will inform us of the situation," he explained. His tone was calm, composed, but his posture betrayed tension. He gestured to the glowing flame, suggesting that through such magical proxies, they could overcome the dungeon interference plaguing their tech. "This is a great idea," he remarked, as if pleased with his own foresight. Still, a frown lingered on his face. He muttered under his breath, hoping that the S ranks wouldn't be needed. His concern shifted to Lee Min-sung, praying he wouldn't cause further complications. A voice interrupted his thoughts, sharp, casual, and edged with amusement. Hunter Lim Taegyu sat back in the seat of the armored vehicle, arms crossed, his broad frame clad in tactical gear. "You're worried, aren't you?" Hunter Choi asked. A silence hung briefly in the air. "Are you trying to get on my nerves right now?" Lim snapped, already annoyed. "Of course not," came the smooth reply. The tension simmered further as the man teased. "I guess you're pretty jealous that S-rank Hunter Park Doojin joined the Grim Reaper Guild, huh?" Lim's eyebrow twitched, his irritation barely contained. His smirk stretched thin. "Oh, not at all," Hunter Choi said, though the slight crack in his smile said otherwise. "We already have a lot of talented hunters." Lim's eyes narrowed. He exhaled a tired breath. Sigh. Looking out the window, he spoke lowly. "I still can't believe Min-sung is the main culprit behind distributing that unknown stimulant." Guilt laced his voice. He felt responsible. As a guild master, the weight of failure pressed heavily on his shoulders. "If something does happen," he continued, "I trust that you'll keep your promise not to interfere. If I can suppress the situation." Hunter Choi leaned forward, fingers steepled, his tone even but edged. "I'd be glad if you'd do that." Because he prefers not to harm others, his words resonate with an unexpected restraint. Yet, that restraint is obliterated in the next instant. The battlefield ignites with violence. A colossal beast, wreathed in hellish flame, roars in agony as fire erupts from its maw. The creature thrashes violently, its body consumed by the blaze, and in the chaos, a wave of explosive force erupts through the chamber. Beside him, Hunter strikes with deadly precision while another shields with brute strength, their synchronized movements a testament to hardened teamwork. The enemy buckles beneath their momentum, but Min-sung alone pushes harder, as if chasing something only he can see. From behind, red hair flows like a banner of fire. Hunter Miho in the crimson suit stands tall, her gaze fixed and calculating. A A shadow of judgment flickers in her eyes as she watches Min-sung tear through their enemy. Behind her, the apostle folds his arms, stoic and unreadable in expression. Their silence is broken only by her quiet words, tinged with skepticism. Acting like an S-rank and letting the others do the work, huh? But the judgment fades into quiet acknowledgement. We're his seniors, though. Then, from within the flames, the truth becomes clear. I have no idea what's happening, Miho admits inwardly, his eyes scanning the battlefield. But ever since we entered the boss room, Lee Min-sung has been fighting too hard. That intensity, that drive, it wasn't desperation. It was something else. And now it clicks. With this, I've become certain, Apostle thinks, eyes narrowing. The reason lies in the power burning within Min-sung's veins. While stardust is useless to B-rank and higher hunters, its distilled form, known as star fragments, is not. These fragments, potent and forbidden, can elevate a lesser hunter beyond their limits, even to the level of an A rank. And Lee Min-sung is burning proof. Flashes of purple and orange light ripple violently through the battlefield as the monstrous fire dragon roars and thrashes, engulfed in magic and flame. From its body, wild bursts of violet energy erupt, spewing chaos across the room. The ground shakes beneath its feet, its tail sweeping destruction as it lashes out in primal fury. Hunter Miho turns abruptly, her eyes widening in shock as she spots something. A shift in power, a movement too fast to trace. Her gasp escapes before she can think, dread washing over her features. From the smoke and light, the dragon's maw stretches wide, a monstrous glow brewing deep within its throat like the birth of a flame destined to consume all. Its killing intent floods the chamber like fire drawn to oxygen. The beast lunges forward, red energy pulsing as it charges its breath attack. The apostle stood beside Min-sung, thinking. He knows the boost from the star fragment won't be enough, not against something of this scale. And as he braces for impact, in that case, he brings his hands together, merging the divine energies within. The atmosphere thickens. The power isn't just physical, it's something ancient, something tied to a greater being. A golden sigil flares into view behind him, glowing orbs orbiting like celestial bodies. 5 glowing lights, red, blue, green, purple, and white, circle a massive green sphere, pulsing like a beating heart. It is the blessing of amplification, a gift granted by one of the 5 abilities of Teal, the ancient being's fractured consciousness. The voice narrates, deep and knowing. This ability doesn't just boost power. It heightens every trait possessed by the user, the weapon, and even the lingering belief of the misborn souls trapped within the stardust. Everything, faith, rage, skill, potential, will surge. The visuals flicker between moments. Hunters gritting their teeth in combat, weapons glowing with raw aura, and the stardust enveloping each one like a divine whisper. Then, the golden light tightens, focusing on Lee Min-sung. His aura pulses violently. His core trait, magic power amplification, begins to surge. And not only his magic, but the weapon he wields, too. Its inherent slashing capability begins to reverberate, wave after wave of sharpened force radiating from the blade. The apostle watches closely, golden light flickering in his gaze. Lee Min-sung, show it to me. His tone is quiet, but carries weight. Show me if you can reach the level you desire after receiving this blessing. A low growl trembles through the flames as the towering beast looms overhead, its claws raised for a devastating strike. But in that split second before impact, Lee Min-sung lowers his stance, the edge of his blade catching the light of his awakened energy, his entire body encased in glowing golden power. The air splits as he leaps upward with ferocity, carving through space with blinding speed. A golden mark flares in his eye like a magical sigil, locking onto the beast. In a single fluid arc, Min-sung cleaves upward, releasing a wave of amplified mana that bisects the monster's midsection. The blade carves clean through its thick hide, sending it crashing to the ground with a seismic shatter. A deafening boom follows, explosive and brilliant, ripping the battlefield open like a ruptured dam. Shock waves radiate outward, cracking the floor and forcing nearby hunters to shield their eyes. From the dust and debris, two wide-eyed hunters glance out from behind a shattered pillar, astonished at what they just witnessed. "What the?" gasps Hunter Miho, staring down at the massive crater torn into the arena. In its center stands Lee Min-sung, his body heaving from the exertion, bathed in the aftermath of raw magic and unleashed strength. Around him, the remains of the colossal beast lie silent. From the shadows, another observer narrows his eyes. The apostle steps forward calmly, his hands still glowing faintly with residual magic. He had seen enough. The fatigue caused by giving amplification to a hunter who's already A rank or higher is tremendous, he thinks to himself. And he was only able to reach S rank for a very short time. Most of the amplification has already disappeared. His gaze sharpens, cold but honest. What a pity, Lee Min-sung. He turns away as Min-sung's knees wobble. It seems you don't have the vessel to contain the power of an S rank. The judgment falls heavy, quiet, clinical, absolute. As Min-sung's glowing eye begins to flicker, the once blinding light now on the verge of fading out. From the center of the ruined battleground, Miho gazed upward at the gaping hole torn into the sky. Her expression tightened as she silently observed the aftermath. That attack, it defied the limits of an A-rank hunter. It wasn't just a strike, it was an upheaval of power that shouldn't have been possible at that level. A quiet thought passed through her sharp eyes. Wasn't Stardust ineffective on high-ranking hunters? Then what could explain that level of force? Her mind churned with suspicion. Could there be another stimulant at work, something beyond Stardust? Suddenly, her thoughts were interrupted. The cold gust of movement behind her made her turn sharply. She gasped. Lee Min-sung was moving again. No, staggering. His posture broken, but still upright. He approached slowly, his body trembling as he clutched at his side, blood trailing from a wound. His eyes had dimmed, but not from weakness. He murmured his name, Lee Min-sung, but his tone was not that of a man in surrender. And then Min-sung spoke with a cold finality. "I told you, didn't I?" From the shadows behind Apostle, Min-sung emerged with piercing red eyes. His voice came low and resolute. "That I would never get brainwashed by the likes of you." His presence was wrapped in a dark aura, rage contained but seething. The air thickened as Min-sung continued. "I'll put that cursed power you've given me to good use." His words weren't just defiance. They were an oath. The gathered hunters watched in stunned silence as he hurled Apostle's limp form across the battlefield, crashing him into the ground. Shock rippled through the ranks. Lee Min-sung, how could you attack a fellow hunter? Hunter Miho yelled in disbelief. Miho continued, her voice ringing with righteous fury. "Have you gone crazy from using the drug?" Yet even as she shouted, Min-sung stood alone in the center of the fractured ground. Apostle lay motionless in a pool of blood. Min-sung exhaled bitterly. Damn it, so this is how things turned out in the end. But his mind was not silent. It was filled with voices. Endless, whispering voices. "I hear endless voices," he thought, clenching his fists. Outside, beyond these walls, the Hunter Association had sent S-rank hunters to stand guard. They were waiting, watching. If I don't get out of here quickly enough, Min-sung's glowing yellow eyes narrowed. I won't be able to get out at all. Under the pressure of the crumbling battlefield, chaos swelled to its peak. I must escape quickly, he thought, his breath sharp and tight. The shout of Hunter Miho cracked through the air, slicing through the din like a war horn. Don't let him get away. But Min-sung was already in motion. The twisted, venomous grin stretched across his face as his jaw clenched in seething resolve. A deep, glowing red overtook his right eye. Black veins spread across his face as monstrous fury erupted from his throat, reverberating through the battlefield. Get out of my way, he roared. In a violent flash of movement, his dark figure tore through the air like a comet of death. Purple light and shadow clashed, scattering hunters as if they were paper in a storm. The ground buckled beneath his feet as he launched skyward with terrifying force, leaving behind only a cratered floor and echoing gasps. Damn it, Hunter Miho growled, her voice full of frustration. As debris rained down, she scanned the battlefield. Around her, fellow hunters groaned and struggled to recover. Hunter Lee Cheol-sung, send the signal to the S-rank hunters outside. She ordered, urgency tightening her voice. All right, the hunter stammered, still reeling from the overwhelming shock. But before the signal could even take effect, her eyes caught a bloodied figure standing up. A slow, chilling sense of disbelief crept over her as she stared at the man clutching his chest. Hunter Park Dujin's body should have been motionless, yet here he stood, covered in blood, but alive. That's good data, he murmured, lifting his bloodied hand from his chest. As long as one has a strong enough mind, they can resist the divinity of the history-born, regardless of how much magic power they have. Huh? Confusion tightened her brow. Hunter Park, how are you still alive? That attack just now pierced through your heart. But her words fell into silence as he slowly lifted a hand to his forehead, brushing aside blood and shadow. From behind his fingers, one glowing yellow eye emerged, cold, unblinking, and unnatural. Outside the dungeon. Damn it, Min-sung muttered, his feet pounding rapidly against the floor. His silhouette bolted away from the battlefield, retreating, running, a flicker of fear finally cutting through the madness. Lee Min-sung surged through the forest at breakneck speed, crimson arcs of energy trailing behind him like a bleeding comet. The raw power coursing through his body was intoxicating. He had obtained the might of an S rank, and yet, here he was, forced to flee like a criminal. The absurdity of it all twisted his expression into one of rage and mockery. This was supposed to be his rise, not a descent into madness. His thoughts churned, bitter and betrayed. The Hunter Association, the Grim Reaper Guild, even Alien, they had all turned their backs on him. There was no one left to trust, no haven to seek. His lips curled into a venomous grin as he whispered to himself about hiding in the next city. Just for now, just until he could turn the tide. But the forest wasn't empty. A thunderous force exploded ahead of him, tearing through the earth in a streak of frost and wind. Min-sung skidded to a halt, startled as the massive weapon embedded itself in the ground before him. A tall figure emerged from the smoke and light, landing with sharp precision, eyes locked on him. Min-sung's eyes widened as his breath caught. What was that? From the tree line, a silhouette slowly stepped forward, cloaked in the eerie glow of moonlight and aura. Calm, deliberate footsteps echoed between the trees. I was wondering what had happened with that explosion, the voice said, cool and low. The figure approached, aura pulsing with restrained power. To think you'd come out by yourself. His coat fluttered slightly as he raised his hand, fingers tightening in the air. I'm going to need you to tell me everything you know about the Stardust and the Iterum Apostle. Lee Min-sung. The shadows peeled back slightly from his face as he stepped fully into view. Suho stared at him. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe.